The character of Dexter Morgan was partially inspired by real-life morally just serial killers Manuel Pardo and Pedro Rodrigues Filho. Pardo was a former Florida police officer who targeted criminals, believing his actions outside of the law were morally justified. It's similar to Pedro Rodrigues Filho, though not a police officer. Filho gained infamy for targeting criminals, drug dealers, and others he deemed immoral or unjust, claiming a moral justification. Both real-life killers loudly echo Dexter's self-righteous killings, though they do not seem to have struggled with their choices in the same way as Morgan. The original Dexter novels depict Dexter's childhood trauma just as harrowingly as the television series. In the novels, Dexter spends 2 entire days trapped inside a shipping container with his mother's brutally murdered body, surrounded by blood and horror. This trauma profoundly explains Dexter's emotional detachment and severe psychological compartmentalization more starkly than the television series, which portrays Dexter witnessing his mother's brutal murder but emphasizes more immediate shock and trauma. In both the novels and the adaptation, Dexter's compulsion to kill, manifested through what he refers to as his dark passenger, is deeply tied to these formative events. The novels explore Dexter's dissociative responses in great detail, explaining his psyche's defensive measures against such intense and prolonged trauma. The show utilizes its visual medium to vividly illustrate Dexter's memory through recurring flashbacks, emphasizing how witnessing his mother's murder and being trapped helplessly shape his compulsions and emotional numbness. The work and research done to create a realistic character in Dexter have not been in vain. Psychologists have linked Dexter's responses to dissociative disorders, validating the authenticity of his fictional psychological profile. Both portrayals underscore the complexity and lasting impact of trauma, shaping Dexter's entire character arc throughout the series and books. Season 1 introduces the Ice Truck Killer, who is ultimately revealed as Dexter's biological brother, Brian Moser. This revelation serves as a critical psychological turning point, compelling Dexter to confront deeply buried aspects of his past trauma. Brian Moser's presence symbolizes a physical manifestation of Dexter's internal darkness, challenging him to question his nature and identity profoundly. The Ice Truck Killer's methods, meticulous and macabre, eerily mirror Dexter's, creating a disturbing reflection that forces Dexter to acknowledge the thin line separating him from the very individuals he hunts. The emotional and psychological turmoil Dexter faces upon discovering Brian's identity and their shared violent past sets the stage for Dexter's ongoing internal conflicts throughout the series. Dexter famously operates under Harry's Code, a strict moral framework taught by his adoptive father, Harry Morgan, but the code is more than a guideline for selecting victims. It's an intricate lifestyle manual governing everything from social interactions to the disposal of bodies. Harry's intention was twofold, protecting Dexter from detection and grappling with his own fear of Dexter's darker side. Dexter meticulously researches and confirms the guilt of his victims, driven by a profound fear of error. Making a mistake would not only shatter Harry's code, but also collapse the carefully crafted identity Dexter maintains. His obsessive process reveals deep-seated anxiety masked by apparent coldness. Despite his violent nature, Dexter does not perceive himself as evil. He rationalizes his killings as necessary acts of justice, maintaining moral balance. This twisted self-justification reveals his complex moral ambiguity and deep internal conflict. Dexter's collection of blood slides from each victim is not just a trophy, but a coping mechanism that gives him meticulous control over his chaotic impulses. Harry Morgan continues to profoundly impact Dexter even after his death, appearing regularly as Dexter's internal guide. These imagined interactions represent Dexter's conscience, embodying his internal moral conflict. Harry's appearances serve as constant reminders of the code, underscoring Dexter's perpetual struggle between his dark urges and his desire for normalcy. Dexter's relationships with significant female characters profoundly influence his emotional and psychological development. His bond with his adoptive sister Deborah is notably intricate. Initially portrayed strictly as a familial connection, subtle romantic undertones complicate their relationship in later seasons. The novels offer a starkly different dynamic, depicting Deborah as colder and more calculating, ultimately aware of Dexter's secret and surprisingly accepting of it. This acceptance profoundly affects Dexter's psyche, demonstrating a rare instance instance of genuine understanding and acceptance of his darker side. Dexter's marriage to Rita Bennett also plays a crucial role in shaping his emotional landscape. Initially, Dexter views Rita merely as a convenient cover to mask his murderous activities. However, as their relationship progresses, Dexter develops authentic emotional attachments, reflecting his capacity for genuine human connection. Rita's tragic murder by the Trinity Killer becomes Dexter's greatest emotional and psychological failure, highlighting his inability to protect his loved ones from the dangers inherent in his secret life. This devastating loss forces Dexter to confront the reality of his dual existence and its severe consequences. The Trinity Killer is Dexter's ultimate fear manifested into reality. Constantly at war with his choices, Dexter's worry that he will fail at controlling his double life is mirrored by Trinity. This is a serial killer capable of balancing family life with his murderous urges without even a second thought. Dexter's obsession with understanding this killer's method ultimately blinds him to the looming threat, and Trinity's actions shatter Dexter's illusion of control. The tragic loss of Rita at this killer's hands leads to devastating emotional fallout. It fires Dexter into a profound crisis of identity, severely testing his psychological resilience and fundamentally altering his outlook on life. The events finally force Dexter to confront the reality that his two worlds are incompatible. This confrontation with failure emphasizes the dangers of Dexter's compartmentalized existence. Throughout the series, Dexter grapples continuously with his identity. Is he man or monster? This existential dilemma drives much of his emotional and psychological development, compelling viewers to question if true change is achievable. Despite his anguish over his identity, Dexter gradually discovers his capacity for genuine emotional connection. Initially convinced he's incapable of authentic feelings, his relationships, especially with Rita, Harrison, and even Deborah, demonstrate otherwise. Dexter's evolving emotional depth is an ongoing source of internal tension, further complicating his personal identity. Similarly, we can see that his attitudes towards children contrast sharply against his violent tendencies. Dexter exhibits intense protectiveness towards kids, which stems directly from his traumatic childhood. He wants to protect children in a way he wasn't protected. This unique ethical boundary highlights Dexter's complexity and lingering humanity and understanding of innocence amid his profound ever-lurking darkness. This is tested in numerous ways through the birth of his son, Harrison. Dexter's role as a father introduces a pivotal emotional evolution, even beyond his already protective nature towards innocent children. With Harrison's arrival, Dexter's protective instinct is there, but it comes in the form of his greatest fear. He has the terrifying realization that his son may inherit his dark tendencies. Parenthood forces Dexter to reconsider the long-term implications of his actions and pushes him towards an aspiration for normalcy, revealing hidden dimensions of his humanity. Dexter embodies profound ethical contradictions. He selectively targets criminals who escape traditional justice, positioning himself morally above his victims. Yet, the complexity of justifying murder highlights his inherent contradictions. Dexter's internal monologues aren't merely narrative tools, they reveal profound emotional isolation. Dexter's voiceovers offer rare glimpses into genuine feelings, underscoring his struggle to emotionally connect with others, further deepening his character's psychological complexity. His meticulously prepared kill rooms are another example of this. They aren't merely practical, but also a symbol of his intense need to isolate violent tendencies from his daily existence. The plastic-wrapped spaces visually reflect his psychological compartmentalization and the perpetual tension between his murderous impulses and his constructed normality. Isolation in any form is Dexter's perceived solution to protecting those he cares about from himself. This self-punishment illustrates Dexter's tragic self-awareness and highlights the depth of his internalized guilt and remorse. Dexter's original finale went one further than existential isolation, as he became physically isolated to work as a lumberjack in his self-inflicted exile. Dexter's highly maintained physical appearance, especially his meticulous grooming habits, symbolizes his obsession with control. Every aspect of his appearance reflects his compulsive need to manage his environment, underscoring his desperate attempt to control a fundamentally chaotic inner world. Dexter's consistently muted wardrobe in green, brown, and neutral tones is a reflection of his relentless attempt to blend in and remain unnoticed. His clothing choices underscore his perpetual concealment of the monstrous urges beneath his ordinary facade, but also continue the idea of isolation and invisibility. It's an example of his desire to be the same as everyone and become unremarkable, again as a form of isolating punishment. Dexter Morgan remains a deeply fascinating character for viewers as they get to observe the complexity of the human psyche, human nature, morality, and psychological trauma. Dexter's hidden depths continue to provoke thought and debate throughout the fandom, ensuring his lasting legacy in popular culture. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Dexter Morgan. Don't forget to subscribe for more captivating insights from ScreenRant.